At this moment, Bonita was no different from a small, convulsing animal under stimulation. Her breathing was rapid. The more her gentle hands squeezed her breasts, the more intense the feeling became. Below was overwhelmed with pleasure, but above was even more intense. Kirapat showed no mercy at all. Clear fluid flowed from the corners of both their mouths. Worst of all was Bonita, still having to keep her mouth open to breathe. Seeing this, Kirapat immediately reached for the ball gag at the head of the bed and picked it up. Time to get dressed. Bonita swallowed hard, her breathing still uneven. Her small body was pulled up to sit upright, still panting. The young woman watched her lover adjust the straps like a belt and bring the small round ball close to her lips with a gentle look. Her mind was still dizzy from the alcohol, but now she was about to become even more overwhelmed by the intoxicating poison called love, leaving her body utterly uncontrollable. Open your mouth and take it in. Kirapat carefully fastened the gag, making sure her lover wouldn't feel pain later. This act also limited Bonita's abilities. She could no longer moan or swallow. Next came the hand restraints. Kirapat handled everything quickly. Bonita still breathed heavily, her body flushed with pleasure. Her slender arms were tied tightly behind her back. At this moment, she looked no different from a defeated rabbit, caught by a hunter, ready to be torn apart. This is the bell. Only ring it if you want to give the red signal. Only ring it if you truly cannot endure anymore. Understand? Bonita nodded, her hand gripping the bell tightly. She did not want to use it and never would. Up to now, she had never said the word red. She always resisted Kirapat's selfishness with equal strength, and this time would be no different. She would not submit. Bonita had said it before, that on this bed, she was the queen. Even now, though she looked like a defeated rabbit, it was partly because she had agreed to it. When everything was ready, Kirapat stood and calmly removed her clothes, her gaze never leaving her lover. The corners of her lips were slightly sore from having dominated Bonita so many times before. Life faced down in the center of the bed. The last tool of the day was placed within easy reach. Kirapat also grabbed a vibrator. Just imagining Bonita being penetrated by two devices at the same time was enough to make her body tremble with excitement. Just thinking about it was enough to make her nearly lose control. Bonita tried to swallow, but having the ball gag in her mouth made it impossible to do what she wanted. She couldn't even speak, only producing guttural moans from deep in her throat. Lying face down, drool began to spill, forcing her to tilt her head so it could flow down her throat. Now you're drooling? Because you blocked my mouth. Kirapat laughed and leaned beside the small figure on the bed. Every place her fingers touched made the other shiver. She looked at Bonita's right hand, tied behind her back, clutching the bell tightly. Her hot breath mixed with the smell of the wine they had shared earlier. Her sharp gaze flicked to the clock as she said, "You'll only wear it for an hour, then I'll take it off for you." Bonita immediately nodded. Her mouth already ached from this. If she had to bite all night, she definitely wouldn't survive.
Ah.
Bonita moaned lightly as the small vibrator clicked and tapped against her nipple. The vibrations were intensely stimulating, a truly mischievous toy she possessed at this moment. The other nipple was taken into Kirapat's mouth, sucked hard without mercy, making the small body tremble with every stroke. Her abdomen contracted sharply. But that was only the beginning of her torment. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, but from overwhelming excitement. As Kirapat's lips sucked and stretched the breast until it was firm, the vibrator began sliding down to her bloom, which had just recovered from the previous jolts.
Ah.
The small body jerked violently as Kirapat pressed it against the most sensitive part of her bloom. The harder she pressed, the more Bonita trembled. Her body twisted and writhed, but how could she resist Kirapat's strength? Kirapat parted her lips from her breast and looked straight into Bonita's face, locking eyes.
ah,
Pretending to cry because it's terrifying, or because it's more intense than usual, or for some other reason. They looked at each other like that. No, it was Kira Pat who wanted to look straight into her lover's eyes, the clearest display of emotion, because now only one thing was obvious. Begging, pleading, but never giving up. Everything about her was a contradiction, and that was Bonita's allure in bed. She was a timid rabbit, unwilling to submit, yet ready to turn into a wild horse the moment she tasted freedom and strength. Bonita couldn't hold her gaze any longer. The tingling from the vibrator pressed against her sensitive point pushed her closer and closer to her limit. She turned her face away, staring at the white ceiling, trying to breathe. Her body tensed, lower abdomen convulsing, eyes rolling back as pleasure overwhelmed every sensation, then erupted in a climax.
ah.
The small body trembled continuously from pleasure, but the sensation increasingly made her uncomfortable. Kirapat's punishment had only just begun. Bonita lay on her side, utterly exhausted. Clear drool trickled from the corner of her lips. She remained curled up like that, legs tightly closed. The vibrator was still running, having slipped and throbbed vigorously against the soft bed. Kirapat didn't offer a word of comfort this time, only leaving a light kiss on her lover's skin, marking her neck as planned. Even a small kiss was enough to make anyone shiver before the next mark landed just above her full breasts. HMMP. A soft sound escaped Bonita's lips as the sensation returned to her. With her hands bound behind her back, she shifted restlessly, yearning for a freedom she knew would not come soon. A faint jingle of the bell followed her movements, too light to serve as any real signal between them. Kirapat stepped away for a moment, then returned with some lubricant on her. She fastened a strap-on with a dildo in the center, slightly larger than what they usually used. She hoped Bonita could handle it. Kirapat leaned beside her, pressing her face to hers, kissing gently, awakening her, and signaling what was about to happen next. The kiss was slow, then decisive, beginning softly while Kirapat's fingers pressed inside the slippery, soft area. Though she called it a punishment, Bonita knew her body had to be fully prepared. The fingers would lead the way, gently paving the path for the larger, more thrilling toy to come. Kirapat didn't use it often, but that didn't mean she never had. They had tried many things together to make intimacy more exciting. In the end, the most important thing was that they did it together.
Ah.
The small body trembled in waves as the first finger continued in and out. Though not gentle, it pressed deeply into her sensitive spot until the numb, tingling sensation surged. The closer she got to climax, the more sensitive her body became to every touch. Bonita looked at her lover with eyes full of tears and urgency. The punishment had nearly exhausted her, but looking into those bright, fiery eyes, she knew the real beginning was about to start. Kirapat withdrew her finger, moved to the center of the bed, and pulled the small body into a face-down position, raising her hips to align perfectly with the device they were about to use together. Then, lubricant was applied evenly over the entire soft silicone body. If you can't take it, ring the bell. Got it. Bonita didn't respond much, only letting out a soft moan from her throat, but that was enough to count as agreement. Kirapat took the vibrator and pressed it to turn it off. She would use it after removing all of Bonita's restraints. The bloom was touched by the tip of the firm, yet still flexible toy. Kirapat pressed slowly and calmly. She watched her lover tense and convulse from the tightness. The young woman whispered hoarsely to steady herself, reminding herself that if it became unbearable, she would stop immediately. If it hurts, ring the bell. Don't force it if you can't take it. Emma. But if you can handle it, my good girl will be rewarded. Understand? Bonita weakly nodded. Her entire body was taut now. This time, the sensation felt as if something much larger was being inserted, so large it felt foreign. Only when it was fully inside did she exhale a small sigh of relief. At least the initial torment had ended. One more deep press, and the moans that followed would be exquisite. Not long after, the lewd, wet sounds echoed, likely because her bloom was completely soaked and combined with the slick lubricant coating the entire length of the toy moving in and out of her. Bonita moaned in her throat, unable to lift her hips as she was held tightly, pushed in and out steadily by that long shaft. Her small body burned and tingled from head to toe. The deeper it touched her sensitive point, the more violently she trembled. The clear sound of flesh meeting flesh indicated that Kirapat had gone all the way in. The bell in her hand jingled with each thrust. The erotic noise spread throughout the room. Kirapat's fiery gaze fixed on the long shaft plunging in and out of her lover. She saw Bonita, exhausted and surrendering completely to the pleasure, and that only fueled her desire further. Her slender hands slid from Bonita's hips to gently pull her arms closer, all while continuing the deep, relentless thrusts. She pressed continuously in the spot that made her lover convulse and moan. She thrust hard, watching the pale skin flush red from handprints, and the dark, wet eyes staring back, seeing the body tremble from the relentless assault and intense desire stirred by such beautiful images. Everything was breathtaking, until a long moan erupted. Bonita's small body convulsed repeatedly, her legs trying to clamp shut before finally collapsing onto the bed, completely spent. Clear, sweet nectar poured out, soaking the pristine white sheets. In that moment, Bonita reached climax and was entirely released. Kirapat withdrew the long shaft, which still carried its gentle, sweet scent. The little girl convulsed pitifully once more, tears falling without warning. Bonita swallowed hard, curling up in a helpless heap, her stomach churning. She could only meet her lover's gaze with pleading eyes, silently begging for a break. Kirapat removed the ball gag and untied the rope around her wrists, not out of satisfaction, but because she wanted to hear that voice when the true punishment began. Huff. As soon as the ball was pulled out of her mouth, Bonita immediately opened her mouth wide, taking deep breaths to recharge her body. That small body was forced to lie on her back, her legs gently held by her lover, positioned between her. Bonita had no time to prepare, no time to open her mouth to protest. She was immediately drawn in by her long embrace. However, Kirapat was not so cruel as to thrust in and out hastily.
No.
The young woman still gave her some time by moving her hips slowly, but that only made the numbness more intense. Bonita did not really like violence, but it was the slow, lingering thing that made her unbearable.
Daddy.
I just finished. I know. That's why I kept going. I had just finished myself.
Ah.
I can't take it anymore, it hurts. I've been good. I even let you go before an hour had passed. Bonita bit her lip. Not even an hour had passed.
She thought it had been a long time.
But when she saw that shining gaze, she knew that she had to face this stubborn person for a while longer.
Ah. Ah.
In and out, slowly but surely. Kirapat had no idea what kind of sex her lover liked the most. The more she saw the face and heard the sounds she wanted to hear, the more excited she became. I can't take it anymore. Daddy, that's enough. Password. Yes. Bonita was too weak that even when asked for the password, she could manage to speak it. Kirapat punished her harder, deeper, and more insistently, until at last she had to utter it amidst the convulsions of pleasure. Yellow. Kirapat let her rest as she wished, after taking her to paradise in this square-shaped room, but only briefly. The young woman leaned against the headboard, still fully dressed, and still wanting to play with Bonita a little longer. When the clock had passed 5 minutes, and over an hour had gone by, Bonita's small body was lifted and placed sitting in her lap, at the edge of the bed. Their lips met again in a fiery kiss, but Bonita was so weak now that she was clumsy, no longer the stubborn girl she had been at the start. Bonita's small hands caressed her lover's hair during the kiss, leaving a mark on the top of her chest before their selfishness and punishment began once more. Sit down. Kirapat reached for the vibrator that had not yet been put away, intending to use it as a bridge to bring them to paradise again, attaching it to Bonita before setting it on the edge of the bed. That means sit down and move. Bonita swallowed hard. She was nearly too exhausted to remain upright. Why was she so stubborn? Was it because of the drink she had just had? She was so intoxicated that she couldn't tell. Was she drunk from love or from the pleasure her lover had given her? Lubricant was applied evenly to the long shaft again, followed by her tiny hips being gradually lowered onto it. But because Bonita was slow and unprepared, Kirapat took the initiative to push her hips down.
Ah.
Too tight. The little girl cried out, opened her mouth and bit her lover's thin shoulder with all her teeth, burying her face into the other person's body like a kitten teasing its owner. Because every time she lifted it up and down, she was too excited to see that passionate face. Don't look away. Show me your sexy face. Isn't that a worthy price for slapping Daddy in the face? Bonita moved her hips for a while before having to return to the role of the receiver, when her slowness was not enough for her lover. The moans ringing in her ears seemed to compensate for the lack of love she felt.
Daddy.
I can't take it anymore. I want to come. Bonita's voice was almost choked with tears. Come out.
No.
No. Let me go first. Because she knew this time was more intense than any other time before, Bonita struggled with all her might to escape her lover's strong grip like a vice. I can't take it anymore. Yes.
Daddy.
I want to pee. No way.
Ah.
It's too much. The little girl sobbed, feeling so exciting that she cried, but Kirapat showed no mercy. Her hips slammed into hers so hard, until the young girl burst, releasing like a flood. Bonita hiccuped, her body convulsing with pleasure while still attached to her lover's body. Her mouth whispered, "You are so cruel to your lover, not letting me rest until you feel like you've had enough. Everything is wet. I told you to stop, but you wouldn't listen. If it's wet, change the sheets."
Ah. Don't.
Don't move. Because the long stick was still deeply embedded in her body, every time Kirapat moved, it caused the sensitive person to feel numb. Password. Yellow. This time, Bonita obediently accepted, lifting herself up to escape the stick that her lover always used at her will, and then lay on the side of the bed, completely exhausted. But soon, Kirapat moved closer to her and said, "If today is not red, then why don't we stay home tomorrow? Are you crazy?" Bonita glared at her, but when she met her gaze, she knew that Kirapat was not joking. She would take her until she really had no more strength left. What kind of person was this? Okay. Then stay up really late tonight. I don't want to, but I'm not done yet. Do you think I can calm down, love? Bonita herself had just realized that she had put her into a nightmare that had lasted countless times, but she tried to hold back, not doing anything. Oh my God, Bonita. She might not be able to sleep tonight. I'm tired. Password. The little girl pursed her lips. I'm tired. That's not an answer. It means I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. Even so, the little girl couldn't deny that Kirapat's love made her body tremble and tingle because of the countless times that long rod had entered and exited throughout the night. She thought it was a punishment for not answering honestly. Moreover, it was used at the same time as the vibrator that was on, vibrating right on the pedals. Bonita trembled violently, nearly fainting, a sensation beyond words, until the final light arrived and her body released everything, whether little or much. She couldn't tell. Her lips whispered red as her eyelids closed. She had truly surrendered. Her bloom quivered, convulsing frighteningly from prolonged stimulation. Her small body was covered with handprints, looking utterly pitiful. Bonita lay there, gasping, swallowing huge breaths of air. She intended to scold that stubborn one, but was instead held tightly in her lover's embrace.
Rest.
I'll clean you up. A gentle voice soothed her, accompanied by actions that promised from this moment on, everything of Bonita's needs would be fully met, so different from how it had been before. You crazy. I'm about to die. I won't let you die. If you die, I'll go fetch you back. Crazy. You're crazy. I really am. Call and request the day off for tomorrow. Kirapat smiled and pressed a kiss to her lover's sweat-damp temple. Even if you don't tell me, I'll still do it. Hold me tight while I sleep. I'm holding you already. Say you love me. I love you. Again. I love you, my love. Again. My good girl, I love you. And then Bonita no longer had the strength to resist fatigue or her heavy eyelids. She immediately fell asleep.